Here comes the new flagship phone from Redmi. But hold on, is this really a flagship phone? Hi, this is Gino of Gino Tech Reviews and this is the Redmi A3. It's the latest of the A series, which any of you know that A series are basically the cheapest phone that you can get from Xiaomi. Last year, this was the Redmi A2. As far as design goes, it's for sure a budget phone, but this A3, it doesn't look like a budget phone at all. Anyone would probably say it's a flagship phone. Also reminds me of the Xiaomi Ultra series with its big round-shaped camera module. The camera bump is quite big and does wobble a lot on a flat surface, but not much of an issue. So talking about its camera, it's only a single camera setup that houses the 8 megapixel main sensor, and it also has the 0.8 megapixel auxiliary lens. And again, here comes the trend of budget phones, but let's take a look at the shots. The colors were accurate and not over or undersaturated, although they're not that vibrant. What I like about is the accuracy in low light conditions. They still produce good colors, as tendency kasi ng ibang budget phones sa low light is naglo-lower yung saturation, but not with this device. And what is missing here is the night mode, which other budget phones ay meron. Although it's not much of an issue for me, but it takes away an instant photo enhancement sa low light. But we also have to consider that budget phones won't get you great night shots at all, so I kind of understand what Redmi did here. Details are also decent, doesn't get too noisy when you zoom in, only kapag nasa good lighting condition ka. Dynamic range is okay during daylight, but during low light it gets pretty bad. I noticed that sometimes details are too soft and too much of a contrast. What I still like is the color accuracy. The image processing and overall photos are great and gives better output over its competitors. Video-wise naman, it can shoot up to 1080p at 30 fps only. Colors are still accurate as far as during daylight. Details are okay, but quality is too soft. Dynamic range is also bad, although highlights aren't that overblown, and of course, if naka-handheld lang, so stability is napaka-shaky talaga. So back panel is made of glass, which adds to the premium feel of the device. Also, it's very rare to see a glass back phone for this price range, but may option naman for a matte leather back in a green colorway. If you wish for a non-glass back panel, although Xiaomi didn't specify if it's using a Gorilla Glass protection on its back, but the front has a Gorilla Glass 3, which I understand why this phone does not have a screen protector out of the box, unlike yung other budget phones from this price segment. Speaking of the front panel, the display is a 6.71-inch IPS with an HD plus 720 by 1650 resolution, and yes, a water drop notch. As this houses the 5 megapixel selfie cam, and photos here aren't good. Highlights are overblown, skin tones are pale, and overall quality is what you can expect from a 3,000 peso phone. For its video capabilities, it can only shoot up to 1080p at 30 fps. And again, stability is shaky, colors are also not accurate, and details can be too soft. Now back to its display. Although it's only 720p, I noticed that color reproduction is excellent. They're vibrant and accurate. It's quite different from other budget phones that I've reviewed with the same resolution, and display quality here is great considering na 3,000 pesos lang tong phone na to. But it only supports wideband level 3, so no HD contents sa Netflix. But if streaming lang naman with YouTube, it shouldn't be an issue. I've watched and streamed movies with this device for over a month, and I've enjoyed watching naman, but the catch is its brightness. It says 500 nits of peak brightness, but as far as my usage goes, it seems like it's below 500. Especially outside, it's not as bright as other phones na merong 500 nits. I wish I have a device sana to measure its peak brightness. The 90Hz refresh rate here is not that noticeable. The phones lag so much considering it uses the MediaTek Helio G36, but when I check the device info app, it shows as P35, and I think this is a rebrand from the P35 which was released 4 years ago, and an Antutu score of G36 only proves that this is where the device lacks. In terms of durability naman, this device is not like any other budget phone. Just after a month, there were no dents nor scratches, although never naman ito nahulog, but I use this phone a lot and I never put it on a case, since I'm confident that it's Gorilla Glass 3 protection and it lived up to its expectation. Since it's glass, so it's a bit heavy and weighs about 199 grams and thickness of about 8.3 millimeters. Grip-wise, it feels nice in hands. Even if it's glass, there were little to no smudges at all, which I like on this Redmi A3, although the frame is plastic with a matte finish but feels slippery at times, but this phone is nothing like any other budget phone. So durability-wise, it's for sure a great backup phone. Now under the hood of the Redmi A3 is the MediaTek Helio G36. which I showed you earlier. It's Antutu Score, although this isn't mainly built for gaming but can't even play. So I tried it on Mobile Legends, which is not a graphic demanding game but definitely a budget phone. As you can see, the FPS drops a lot. It can sometimes too unplayable, especially pag madami ng actions happening on the screen, and FPS drops heavily. I was able to manage to play through around 20 minutes and thermals were okay, but if you're really looking for a phone na kahit pang ML lang, this phone, I will not recommend this at all. This A3 is mainly built for people who needs a phone to be able to do basic tasks like social media, doing YouTube, or just even doing video calls. But the catch is it can barely run these basic tasks smoothly. Although my device has the 3GB of RAM, so if you would going to get this, just go for the highest variant of the 4GB of RAM, as it should give you a slightly better performance, but it's not much of a difference because 3GB or 4GB of RAM in 2024 is definitely not an option for anyone, let alone pairing it with a 4-year-old chipset. But battery life is the total opposite of how bad its performance. It packs by a 5000 mAh of battery, although it can charge only up to 10 watts, so that's another bummer. But battery life was superb. A great 6 to 7 hours of screen on time in light to moderate usage. A big factor of that is its 720p display and 90Hz refresh rate na din. Also, most phones' battery percentage gets decreased even during standby, but this A3, I can leave the phone nga for 6 hours straight and battery never nabawasan due to software optimizations na din, and this runs on, I believe, a stock Android skin or an Android Go edition, which is currently the latest Android 14. So yes, it's not Hyper OS ni Xiaomi, although it's closer to stock Android with animations being fluid, wala masyadong bugs, and bloatwares are lesser compared sa isang custom skin. Isa sa dahilan why I like Xiaomi phones is you can easily swipe down the navigation panel and you don't need to reach the top of the corner niya. Dahil din sa software niya, it helps increase battery life, but it has to compromise its charging speed, and the 10 watts can get the phone from 0% to 100% in about 2 hours and 38 minutes. So yikes. Redmi A3 is a 4G device, but some issues I got is it's hard to get a good signal both on Wi-Fi and cellular. Kahit pa nasa malapit yung router ko, it can sometimes get disconnected on its own at yung mobile data din is pahirapan. Pero depending na din yan sa network and area mo. So si Redmi A3 supports 2 nano SIM cards with dedicated micro SD card slot. Storage-wise, it has 2 configurations. One with the 3GB of RAM and the 64GB of internal storage, and the other is the 4GB of RAM with the 128GB of internal storage. That is expandable up to 1TB via micro SD card. Nga pala, haptics here are basically bad, and yung vibration sometimes ay may delays, lalo na kapag naglalag yung device. What I also liked about this device is its speakers. I was surprised of how loud it can get, especially sa ganitong presyuhan. It's a single upward firing speaker but solid din naman yung sound quality. So just take a listen. So when listening to music, it's very crisp and somehow clear. Even listening to podcasts sa YouTube ay clear na clear din yung mga salita nila. But again, we have to set our expectations sa ganitong presyuhan na phone. Pero like I said, A3 has surprisingly good speakers. Also, the 3.5mm headphone jack is still present if you are more into using wired earphones. Now the pricing. The 3 and 64 variant is priced at 3,399, while the highest 4 and 128GB of variant is priced at 3,999. So for the final verdict, for its price under 4,000 pesos, it's arguably the best looking phone for this price range. Even those upper entry level phones, A3 is easily stands out along with its superb build quality, as you rarely getting a Gorilla Glass, let alone a third generation for under 4,000. But when we start to talk about the overall value of the phone, especially its chipset, and what it can do on a day-to-day basis, is you might get too disappointed of how poorly this device performs among its competitors. You can opt for a Vivo Y03 or the Realme Note 50 instead, that has a better chipset with Helio G85 on Y03 and a Unisoc T612 naman for Note 50. So overall, Redmi A3 offers some solid features that most entry-level phones don't. But do not get fooled by its aesthetics, as performance is also a huge factor on why this phone is a disappointment. So what are your thoughts kay Redmi A3? Leave your comments down below and pag-usapan natin yan. And once again, this has been Gino of Gino Tech Reviews. Bye-bye!